Hello, this is Mr. Lee. Welcome back to another lesson. Today we are on lesson 27, and the title of this is Ecosystems. Our target vocabulary, as you can see up here in the left-hand corner, we have the word alert, opportunities, scarce, shortage, and species. Okay, so I'm going to read the passage. I will read the questions. When you get to the questions, you can pause the video and answer them accordingly. All of the living things in an area are part of an area's ecosystem. The plants and animals depend on each other to survive. Some species, or different kinds of animals, are found in more than one ecosystem. For example, many types of birds nest in one place and feed in another. In rainforest, water is plentiful. In deserts, it is scarce, which means there's not enough of it. Different places support very different kinds of life. A shortage of food for other changes may cause problems for plants and animals. If we don't protect them, some plants and animals may be lost forever. Scientists are alert, or they're aware, to changes in an environment. They look for opportunities to protect the plants and animals there. Okay, so number one, a blank of food or another change to a place may cause some plants or animals to be lost forever. So which word would make sense to go in that blank? Number two, some blank of birds' nests in one area and feed in another area. So remember, they talked about different types of bird nest. If you're not sure where that is, it is right here. Okay. Number three, in the desert, water is, okay, that can be found in this section here. Number four, what opportunities do you have to show off your talents? So where can you show off your talents? Okay, opportunities are different times that allow you to show something off or to do something. And number five, what can you do to stay alert in class? So that would be like if you're falling asleep or a lesson really isn't interesting to you, what can you do to help keep yourself awake and attentive to the lesson? All right, I'm going to be reading a story called The Life of a Pond by Lynn Frankel. So what I will do, as in my prior lessons, I will read the page, ask the question, and then I will continue on. As I complete reading or as I finish reading the page here, you can pause the video after I ask the question so you can write down your responses. So, The Life of a Pond by Lynn Frankel. A pond is full of life. Look in and around pond. Millions of living things make their homes there. The pond and what lives in it make up an ecosystem. It is a community of plants and animals in one place. Each of the animals is busy trying to stay alive. All seek food and shelter. They are always alert to dangers. They hide from animals that want to eat them, and they try to keep their young safe. So the question is, what is an ecosystem? Okay, and I can tell you right now, it is in the first paragraph here. Okay, so if you're not sure or you can't remember, go back and do some rereading. Next page, the smallest life forms. The smallest forms of life in a pond are bacteria. They may be shaped like little dots or small rods. Most are too small to see without a microscope, but they are exciting. Larger life forms called protozoa feed on bacteria. Some can move and others simply float. The largest protozoa are still very small. They are about the size of 2 or 3 small letters in an alphabet. So about the text that you see on this page, that's about the size that they are. Okay. So our question is, which life forms eat bacteria? Okay, I can tell you right here, it's in the second half of the paragraph. So you may have to go back and do some rereading. Tiny plants and animals. Other tiny plants and animals also live in ponds. Some are tiny worms. Others look like small flowers or plants. They eat bacteria too. They also feed on each other. In turn, larger animals feed on them. Have you ever seen green scum on ponds? It is caused by algae. These are simple living things that can take over a pond. They use up the oxygen in the pond. When oxygen becomes scarce, or remember that scarce means there's not a lot of it, so when there's not a lot of oxygen, other life forms die out. So our question down here for us stop and think is what might happen if food for animals becomes scarce? So what they're saying in this is if there's not enough food for a particular animal, what would happen to it? What do you think would happen to it? Remember to answer the question using part of the question. So what happened if food for animals becomes scarce? If food for animals becomes scarce, what happens? Okay, pause the video, come up with your answer. Arthropods and fish. Arthropods live in ponds too. Spiders, shrimp, and insects belong in this group. They use legs or tails to move. They hold on to prey with their mouths and claws. Many kinds of insects live in ponds. Some always live under the water. Others, such as dragonflies, live their lives in stages. When young, they are in the water. Then their bodies change and they take to the air. Fish eat insects in a pond. The size and number of fish depends on how big the pond is and what else lives there. Okay, so our question is, why might a smaller number of insects in a pond mean fewer fish? Okay, so if you're not sure, go back and reread. Okay, it may have something to do with the species that lives there or the amount of animals that live there. Okay, pause the video, come up with your answer. Reptiles. Turtles and snakes live in ponds. Salamanders also live in or near ponds. Often there is no shortage of reptiles, but they move quickly. It is rare to spot one. Reptiles that live in ponds are not in the water all the time. They lay their eggs on land. Animals living near the pond have opportunities to feed on young reptiles and reptile eggs. Our question is down at the bottom here, what might be a rare sight in your neighborhood? Now, this goes beyond just like animals. Okay, what's something that you rarely see in around the place that you live? So most of you live right here in Viroqua, like right in town. So what would be a rare sight that you would see? Something that you usually never see. Okay, pause the video, record your answer. Frogs. Frogs are interesting animals. They lay their eggs in the water. The eggs become tadpoles. A tadpole hatches with gills like a fish. Then the gills close and the tadpole begins to breathe air. It grows leg buds and loses its tail. After a few weeks, it becomes a frog. Adult frogs eat small fish and even mice. Snakes, turtles, raccoons, and birds hunt frogs. Our question at the bottom is what happens to tadpoles just before they become frogs? So that is right here. Okay, in this little blurb, record your answer. And our last page with cycles. Animals depend on each other to survive. Big animals eat small ones. Small animals eat still smaller ones. This cycle is called a food chain. Ponds have a life cycle too. Over time, rain washes things into the pond. It slowly fills up. As time goes by, a pond may turn into a marsh. One day, it might disappear altogether. A lack of life in a pond may be a sign of trouble. Maybe weeds have taken over. Maybe one species has wiped out all the others. Maybe the birds ate up all the fish in one particular pond. That would mean that they wiped it out and now there isn't anything to live there anymore. Some people work hard to keep ponds healthy. They know that the pond is an important little world. So I love this question down at the bottom. Our question is, what is the main idea of the section? Main idea is such an important skill to wrap your mind around, and sometimes it can be kind of difficult. So do your best. Okay, so what is the main idea of this section, this entire cycle section? Remember, some key tips and tricks for finding main idea is looking at the heading, looking at the first paragraph or first line of the paragraph. Sometimes you can look at the bottom down here of the ending paragraph, kind of the conclusion that wraps it all up. So there are a couple different ways that you can find out main idea. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more videos.